guys, so last night's episode of Deception was so good, you guys. I would even go so far as to say that it is my favorite Deception episode so far. I mean, it was just full of fantastic stuff and I mean, just like craziness, and it was so good. And after last night's episode, I just gotta say, I mean, we only have 2 more episodes left before the end of the season. And I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna be really sad now if this show gets canceled because last night was so good. Okay, so, you know, from last week's episode, we get that Robert is just, like, not trusting Joanna at all. Obviously, the woman lost $500,000. Lost or stole, as far as he's concerned. Plus, she failed the polygraph. And then all kinds of little different clues start to come out. Like, in this episode, you know, he realizes that somebody accessed the server room with his ID, and, you know, again, you know, that just throws another kind of log on the fire of his suspicion of Joanna, basically. So, at one point in the episode, you know, he tries to grill her, like, about her work past, and then finally, you know, kind of the big thing he does is he brings her mother. He flies her mother, you know, from wherever she's at, in the home that she's in. He flies her to the house to stay, you know, kind of like, oh, I wanted to surprise you type of thing. When really, he just wants to, like, grill her mother about Joanna's past. So you see, you know, there's like a little more tension because of that in the house, because, you know, Joanna's trying to tell her mom, like, did you tell him I was a police officer? You can't tell him that. You have to try to remember my cover story. But of course, the problem is that her mom has Alzheimer's. So her mother has a hard time remembering things anyway. So it's just a big, fat, crazy mess. Early on in the episode too, you know, we really start to get that Audrey is not a good person. And I'm beginning to feel like my theory from last week is coming true, because there's a scene where Edward goes to see Julian and he sees Audrey and he's just like, how is he? And Audrey makes some comment, well, how good could he be, you know, after finding out that his drug killed 24 kids. And as soon as she said it, I seriously yelled at the screen like, busted! Because nobody knows about the kids. Nobody's supposed to know about the kids because Edward didn't mention that in his press conference. Julian knows, but he didn't tell her, so it's like, how would she possibly know about that? So I think Edward's suspicion starts to raise a little bit once he hears her say that, and he even asked Julian, like, did you tell her about that? And Julian's like, no, of course I didn't. So that just really gives us more evidence that Audrey is the one who planted the bad Lyritrol trial information. You know, as the episode goes on, we learn that she and Ben went to school together. Joanna does a little investigating and goes and sees Ben's sister and learns that Ben and Audrey were friends. I mean, there's pictures of them in the sister's house, basically. Meanwhile, bad FBI agent Will, you know, doesn't want to hear it because he is #1 suspect, you know, is Robert Bowers. He's got, like, tunnel vision when it comes to that, so he doesn't want to hear anything else, like, you know, evidence. Who needs evidence when I've got my suspect here? The other kind of craziness in this episode dealt with Senator Haverstock and Mia and the whole bone marrow thing. She does get tested, finds out that she's a match. So he's excited because he knows that, you know, he's got a chance to live now. But then, you know, Robert Bowers, who is like the biggest gangsta on the show, when the senator calls him to tell him the good news, he basically tells him, oh, that's nice. We're not gonna sign off to let Mia give you her bone marrow. So, good luck with your death, basically. I mean, it was just like hardcore. He kind of like brags a little bit and is like, I can't believe that you gave me the golf club already. I hold all the power, basically, and I'm just ready to watch you die. Mia's not, you know, so happy with that. And then even the senator, you know, he does the underhanded thing and goes to Sophia and is like, look, you need to get your husband to change his mind. You need to sign off on Mia giving me her bone marrow, or I'm gonna have Wyatt released from prison on Saturday, basically. Like, in the next couple of days, he's gonna show up in your life. So Sophia knows she has to do something. And once Mia realizes what Robert's trying to do, she's not gonna watch this man die. And it was kind of ridiculous for him to think that she was gonna be okay with that. So she's like, I'm gonna do it. In the end, though, she gets to the clinic and gets ready to do it, and Kyle finally has this kind of like attack of conscience and decides that he needs to come clean. And so he goes to her and tells her everything. Tells her that he's been working for the senator, why he was doing it, you know, that the senator really kind of forced him into the situation. It was go to jail or do this. And he tells her the truth. And she gets really upset, of course, and it's just like, and just leaves. And it's just like, pretty much, I'm done with you people. You're all crazy. Why is everyone lying to me? Now, the senator might not be out of luck completely, right? Because there was also this flashback scene where we saw he and Robert at the church, like during his first wife's funeral. And there was other flashbacks of his first wife as well, or moments where you would see Robert thinking and you would get that he was remembering his wife. But in this scene, they're at the wife's funeral, and then when the senator comes in, he tells Robert, like, it's taken care of. And basically it sounds like he's fixed it so that it looks like his wife's car accident was because of some disease that she had. I think he said ALS. And then at the very end of the episode, we see Senator Haverstock come to the house to talk to Robert, and he kind of threatens him a little bit with the fact that he knows how Catherine really died. And he makes it seem almost like Robert had something to do with it. But I don't know, because even in the flashback scene before that, Robert seemed really sad, and it didn't seem like he was asking him to cover up murder. So it just makes you wonder, how did Catherine really die? What really happened there? So I'm hoping that's something we're going to be finding out in the next 2 episodes. Now, Sophia takes care of her Wyatt problem pretty easily. We see her go to the prison for a conjugal visit, and in true Sophia fashion, the woman walks in, takes off a jacket, and she's got like lingerie on, and you know, she's having this moment with him, but then we see her slipping drugs into the pocket of his like prison jumpsuit. So she's really just basically trying to keep him in jail longer, and he's gonna figure that out. And if this show gets another season, I'm gonna bet that he's gonna get out of jail eventually, and he's gonna cause a lot of problems. So let's talk about Edward, my favorite Deception character. Edward and Will really spend a lot of this episode together, and eventually, you know, we get that Edward realizes that he may have been just a pawn in this whole kind of scheme that's going on. As Will starts to realize that, okay, maybe Audrey does have something to do with this, maybe the Lyritrol information was fake, you know, Edward starts to realize, like, look what he did to his family. You know, like, he was basically used to kind of, by the competition, to really destroy Bowers Pharmaceutical. And so I really feel like he's going to, you know, really want to try to make things right, because that's who Edward is. Okay, and my absolute favorite part of this episode, was when we see Edward go into this restaurant to confront the guy who's the president of the, like, competing company, and he's having, like, lunch or breakfast with Audrey, and he walks in to tell this guy, like, I'm gonna figure out what it is that you did, and Audrey tries to be like, oh, hey, Edward, and he turns to her and he says, shut up, I don't like you. And I just thought that was the funniest thing, because it's like, yes, he speaks for us all, really. Shut up, Audrey, because we don't like you. Okay, so let's go back to the house and talk about Joanna's mom a little bit. You know, you see Robert trying to, like, you know, figure that out and trying to get mom to talk a little bit, but Joanna manages to kind of, like, cause a little disturbance and like manages to kind of lead her mom off to bed, you know, because her mom is sick type of thing. Also during the episode, Robert has Rayburn following Joanna. So he realizes that she went to see Ben's sister. And so, you know, I think, you know, he's got all these ideas in his head of what is this girl doing? And she realizes that she's really close to getting caught as well. So she even tells Will at one point, like, I think Robert's on to me. And then even once her mom gets there, once Robert brings her mom there, that's when Will is like, okay, we need to figure out something because this is starting to get a little too dangerous. Okay, so let's talk J&J, because it was really, really good in this episode, you guys. We saw quite a lot of, like, Audrey, Julian, and Joanna interaction. So a lot of Joanna being jealous, I think, really. There was a scene where she goes to Julian's apartment to pretend that she needs to find something, when really I think she's going to try to, like, grill Audrey a little bit. And then Audrey tries to get, like, territorial girlfriend on Joanna and tells her pretty much, like, look, you had your chance with Julian, you blew it, now it's my turn, you need to back off. And Joanna tries to, like, shake her a little bit and asks her about Ben. And Audrey plays it off like, I don't know who that is, you know, but we really know she knows who it is. Later in the episode, Robert and Sophia are having a party at the house for their anniversary. And everyone's there, and there's this fantastic moment, right, where Robert is reading this sonnet. It's a Shakespearean sonnet, number 116, if you're interested in going back to read it, because it was fantastic, because Shakespeare's awesome. And, you know, the sonnet's beautiful, and he's reading it, and the best part, though, is it's like, as he's reading it, you see Julian, like, glance over at Joanna at one point, as Robert gets to this point in the sonnet where it's just talking about, like, this, like, enduring type of love, and he looks over at Joanna, and then you see her, like, blink and look over at him, and they, like, have this moment where they look at each other during the poem. That was just beautiful. And then after the poem is read, you know, and everybody goes off to dinner, the two of them are talking a little bit, and that's when Joanna finally comes clean. So she tells him, like, look, I don't know if it's because my mom is here and I'm just realizing that life is short. And then she just comes clean. She tells him that she is interested in him. And then the look on his face was just kind of like frozen a little bit, like, okay. And then Audrey shows up and is like, are you coming? And you see this kind of moment, like, is he going to stay and talk to Joanna, or is he going to go off? But you get that he was going to leave because he was just really kind of, I think, like, taken aback by what she said. And so he goes off to dinner, and everybody goes off to dinner. Meanwhile, during dinner, Will calls Joanna and tells her, like, look, we found this number that the assassin's cell phone called. You know, the person that was hired to kill Vivian, they called this person. And we know, because we've done, like, satellite search for the phone, that it's inside the Bowers house. So I'm going to call her right now. You go into dinner and tell me, tell me whose phone rings. So she walks into dinner, right? And at first I was a little scared because the phone starts ringing and Julian picks up the phone and I was just like, no, I cannot do this, people. But it wasn't Julian's phone after the commercial break, of course. We see him pass it to Audrey, who we know is guilty. She picks up the phone and she's all like, who is this? Who is this? Or whatever. And so, yeah, the FBI realizes that Audrey is involved in all of that somehow. So she is, I'm assuming next week, going to be big time suspect. The big J&J moment comes at the end of the episode. We see Joanna kind of talking to her mother after dinner, and her mom's just kind of like, again, warning her about Julian, and just like, remember that he slept with all those girls when you were younger, and I saw you crying when you were younger over him. He's not worth it. He hasn't changed. And, Joanna's just like, it doesn't matter, Mom, because he's with someone else. And Mom is just pretty much just like, you need to let that go. And then we see Joanna in her room. And then we hear the secret knock, you guys. I just was like, when she was sitting at the table and the secret knock came, I was just like, secret knock. I was so excited. And it was just fantastic because it was like, she literally opens the door. Julian just tells her like, okay, like, I'm in. To the edge of doom, like, let's go. Which he's quoting the Shakespearean sonnet that his dad read earlier. Because you got, like, during the whole sonnet, he was thinking about Joanna. And so he told her, like, I'm in, let's go to the edge of doom together. And then he kisses her and the two of them fall on the bed, of course, and, they're gonna have some J&J time. So yeah, it was definitely it was a great episode, you guys. I mean, it was just fast paced. It was full of all kinds of craziness going on. And the preview for next week looks awesome. And I feel like part of me feels like I have it figured out, but I feel like next week's just gonna kind of blow that out of the water. I think Audrey's involved. And I think the Lyritrol stuff is fake, but at the same time, I think there's so much more that I haven't even figured out yet. So we will see in the next 2 episodes, finally, who killed Vivian. And, fingers crossed that, maybe, perhaps this show will have a life after season 1. I guess we will have to wait and see about that, though. Okay, guys, so that is it for me today. As always, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to comment. Tell me what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys later. Bye.